Like I've heard from many people like, oh, your voice would be great for folk music, or it would lend itself to that. So I've been wanting to kind of delve deeper into it for a long time. I've already kind of, it's one of my inspirational sources in my like regular sound for Sylvaine as well. As you can hear, it comes out more noticeable in certain songs. But this EP was dedicated to this specific type of expression.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com. We are thrilled to welcome in Sylvaine, a.k.a. Katherine Shepard, or vice versa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm really good, considering I wasn't so good recently, so I'm really glad. Thanks for asking. Super pumped to be back and chatting with you today. Your new album is coming out on Season of Mist next month as we record this. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. Um, it's these superfluous holidays. I always say, like, if you need a holiday to remind you how to act towards your partner, but in the spirit of positivity, let's just keep it happy and light. And
Sure.
I wish you
I'm
the
the
best.
same.
I wish you well. Wish you the best.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Again, I'm gonna take a shot at this Er Framand. I hope that's correct. It's probably not.
That's good. Good job.
It's not
Yeah.
bad, right? It's like
Yeah.
so. I practiced so many times, and as you alluded to offline, it comes from an old Norwegian dialect, and a lot of your lyrics and poetry, we'll call it, for your art and your music is sort of steeped in this history
Yes.
that I think is part of the main appeal beside the lovely music and your voice. I think this pull to history, we have seen it grow from across different genres, but especially in this wonderful underground music. What I know, this is kind of your roots also. So obviously there's such a deep well to keep going to. You have a career now that is over 10 years long. So obviously there's something that keeps pulling you back to this, to these meaningful stories and songs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, growing up in Norway, I mean, it's been something that's been around me my whole life. Of course, this like traditional folk music that we have here. Every country more or less has like a traditional folk music, and that's more or like less present in like the culture. We have it pretty present here, I would say, in Norway. And it like, dates back to really a long time ago, and it was music that was used for entertainment, but also for like it was had like an actual purpose, like for example communicating over mountains or long distances and stuff like that, trying to like retrieve animals off the mountain, stuff like that. So it's a really interesting and rich tradition that ranges from wildly different use or like why they originated, and it's been something that I've been wanting to delve into a long time actually. Like I've been told since I was a teenager that my voice, like I've heard from many people like, oh, your voice would be great for folk music, or it would lend itself to that. So I've been wanting to kind of delve deeper into it for a long time. I've already kind of, it's one of my inspirational sources in my like regular sound for Sylvain as well. As you can hear, it comes out more noticeable in certain songs. But this EP was dedicated to this specific type of expression because it was actually it's revolved around the last track or the title track, Er Framand. That was a song that I was just watching TV with my parents, and it was like a music program, and this song came on and was performed by a really great Norwegian artist called Bjørn Tomren, and it was like the biggest slap in my face, and I swear even this day, like right now, I could sing that song and it still makes me feel like so much more than a lot of other music ever will and ever has. It's just something about it, like the melody and the lyrics resonates with me so greatly. And from that moment, I was just like, I need to do something with this. And I started to perform it live a little bit sometimes when I felt like there was the right ambience for it. And I kind of love the idea of it being like this ephemeral, like fleeting thing that was here and now and then kind of gone. But then my label, several people from Season of Mists came to hear this song at different concerts throughout a couple of years, and they all kept saying the same thing, like, we have to do something with this because it has something really special. We don't understand what you're saying, but still we feel a lot when we hear this. So I started toying with the idea of recording it, and basically that went from recording Er Framand, and I wanted to do it in a very worthy way because this song means everything to me. So I wanted to do it in a very specific way, like very kind of like, one take organic recording in a place that has a natural reverb, that has that kind of sacral, worthy kind of yeah, it's just worthy to hold the melodies of this beautiful piece. And that evolved from there to turning into a whole release that is almost like an album length, with 3 traditional Norwegian folk music pieces of unknown origins, because they're folk art basically, so we don't know exactly where they come from. We don't know exactly how old they are. The lyrics for some of them we can date back to certain things, but and then there's 3 pieces that I composed myself, one of which is kind of inspired by one of the traditional pieces. So yeah, it became this like whole release dedicated to my musical, I guess, heritage somehow.
That's amazing. Thanks for unpacking all that. I didn't want to take the literal translation of what if it has a meaning, the phrase, but if you want to share what that is, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I kind of debated how to translate it, because obviously directly translated it is I am a stranger, or I'm a I'm foreigner, or like, that kind of thing. And basically that's the thing with this piece, Er Framand. I think that also hit me so hard is the lyrics. If you take away the organized, dogmatic religion thing out of it, because there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's not my personal belief system. So I actually rewrote the lyrics for all of the 3 traditional folk songs, because they're all religious, and made it more about spirituality rather than an organized religion, because I don't believe in that, and I don't want to disrespect the people that do. So if you take away the religious context of this lyric, basically it speaks about the same exact thing as I do in Sylvaine a lot, and it's kind of like connected to that main pillar in this project that's been there since the very beginning, the feeling of like spiritual severance, which is always so difficult to put into words and so difficult to talk about without sounding weird or maybe even pretentious. I don't know. But basically, what it means to me, long story short, is I am a stranger. I don't belong to this place. I come from somewhere else. And it's not just me. I believe that everyone does, but I don't want to oppose my belief system on anyone else. But I believe that we are not from here. Our soul, or like the inner core part of us, does not this physical like meat vessel that we're in while we're on this planet, is from somewhere else. And coming here to this earth is an absolute gift. We're sent here to learn and experience, but this is not our home, so to speak. And for some people, they might feel more or less connected to this place. For me, I have always felt like I don't belong here. And I know that sounds so pretentious and weird, but it's not meant like that. It's just a feeling of disconnection. And through actually Sylvain has taught me a lot about what I believe and what I think about this, through like, digging to make the arch, to try to articulate, because I have to in the end talk about it, articulate what this kind of spiritual belief or spirituality is for me. So Er Framand means I am a stranger in this place. I am not from here. And like there's a line that I love in the second verse of this that says, "This earth holds not the peace my soul seeks." That right there kind of just sums up Sylvain as a project. So it speaks about that basically, and that's the stranger, what the title means more or less for me.
Thanks for unpacking that again. And also, I don't think it's pretentious. I think the last few years of life on Earth have taught us all that we're all questioning our place in the world. And I do find an interesting dichotomy between that idea, about sort of this physical Earth. At the same time, a lot of Norwegian folk music is very tuned into nature and the land and the trees and animal and just environment, right? So on one hand, physically, we're all part of this, symbiotic relationship with nature, but also I have my own place in the world, and where do I fit in emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and these are not, I don't think it's pretentious. I come from like a lot of progressive rock music that's very like, we wore a lot of capes and magic Harry Potter wands and stuff like that. So, like I know pretentious very well, and I'm a writer. I don't think it's that pretentious. Very cool. And I do love that you talked about like making music that's worthy of these songs, and I love it does feel very it's funny because I'm like you, I'm very, I'm not religious, but I do appreciate that the music has this pastoral churchy feeling. The organ says so much
Yeah.
all that every note says so much on the organ along with your voice.
Yeah, it's funny how the organ came into play because that's another instrument that I've been wanting to work with for many years, but it's not as if it's the easiest to just go, hey, I want to play the organ, because you have to kind of be in a certain room for that to happen. But when I had the chance to work in this church, Kampen here in Oslo, that were actually really super welcoming and very excited about the project and the thought of me recording something in their church, which was really heartwarming and nice. The organ was like became the natural choice for the kind of the second leading instrument, because obviously this EP is very much focused around voice and organ, which originally was more going to be voice and guitar played with bow to get that kind of drone, which is also actually present on the record. But when it became apparent to me that, hey, I can actually play the organ, I started asking the church, is it like possible for me to try? Like, I've never played the organ before, play piano, but that's not exactly the same, but it's kind of like relatable a little bit, not totally, but a little bit. And started sitting down with it, and I just absolutely fell in love. Like, I love this instrument. It's completely magical. It's massive. It can be so many things. It's incredible. And the fact that a part of playing the organ is almost like dancing, because you have to move the feet, to get the pedal notes going. It's just like it just fits so perfectly with everything this EP was for me. That yeah, and also of course the kind of sacred feeling that it gives, the pastoral feeling, as you said, that it gives. It just, like, I couldn't have asked for a better instrument to kind of accompany the voice throughout this journey. So
Right on. Synthesizers have made us lazy, or maybe not appreciative enough of how challenging something like a true church organ can be. I've been lucky enough to sit in for a few live performances in churches of all kinds of music played in churches, but watching someone actually work an organ, it's work. It's almost like drumming. It's a borderline the same physicality as a drummer. It's crazy.
absolutely, yeah, with all the stops and stuff, you have to be able in the and I mean the fact that you have to spend like so much time also pre-show to, like, program all your settings for the different parts. It's just like it's a journey. I think it's a big process playing the organ. So yeah, it's definitely a really cool instrument, and it's on like the list of like things I would really like to play more, because it just has this, like, yeah, it has something that's just unlike any other instrument, I think.
Nice. I feel like we've been also ruined by movies, and we watch people like hit a gong, and you don't just go up to a gong and smash it with a mallet. You have to like warm up the gong to
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
play a note on it. So I think it's really fun, and I also appreciate that you took yourself out of your comfort zone, because I think of you as a singer and a guitarist, and I know that you play other instruments, and I know you did the percussion here and the engineering and producing as well, partially, and I love that you kind of took yourself. Not only did you take on this adventure of this music and these meaningful stories to your heritage. I love that you took yourself out of your comfort zone to really lean heavily into stuff that you didn't, maybe when you even began the project, you didn't know you were going to do musically.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. That's it. I like to see, that's the thing that's so exciting about art in general, but I'm speaking from a musical perspective because that's my kind of media of art. But it's basically, it's so exciting that if you just, like, just the thought of pushing your limits and not knowing exactly where it's going to take you is just super inspiring. It means that you're never done, like you can always, there's always so much uncharted territory to explore, and you have no idea which kind of expression you actually can get into if you just push yourself a bit. And I've been very much throughout this is my sixth release now, and I've been trying to push myself throughout all of those releases to never settle, and not be afraid of, if something hasn't been explored yet, it doesn't mean that I can't do it. It just means that it hasn't been explored yet. And the worst thing that can happen is I try and I go, either one, my skills are not sufficient to do this. Fair enough. That's happened with the drums on my, I very early figured out that I can't play good enough to be able to do the drums that I want to, that I program for my band, basically. Or, best case scenario, like with the organ, hey, this actually works. And I practiced like a little bit, and it actually is enough to express this specific thing. Is it enough to play like, the famous Interstellar track that's been played on organ? No, not at all. Never, ever. But, maybe one day, who knows? But I've always been coming at music from a very like emotional perspective, and always been like, if the expression is true and it's authentic and it expresses the emotion I was after, that's the main thing. That's enough. That's the main importance. So but just trying to push yourself, sometimes you'll be so surprised where you end up going, and it can be so inspiring, just the thought of like, keep pushing yourself just a little bit, like just keep going, and you are actually not aware of what you're capable of. So yeah. Thank you for
Some,
acknowledging that.
yeah, of course, some nice wisdom there, some inspiration maybe for up and coming artists and people trying to dip their toe in and do something a little, say success begins outside of your comfort zone. Speaking of drums, I obviously it's well known, your former touring partner Nage from Alceste played some drums for you once, and I got to interview him, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago in Philadelphia at a gig, and you came up just casually in the conversation. I didn't mention it, and he was gushing about you. He was so proud of you, and he was so excited. And this is 4 or 5 releases ago now, so 2016, 2017, right? And he was just like so thrilled, and he was like, the next generation of artists is coming, and look at what's coming behind us. He's like, I'm so not excited to talk about my band and what I do, and I want to talk about other artists I'm excited about. So I thought that was A, very humble and kind of him, and B, just kind of again speaks to where you've come from and to where you are. I know it seems the last few years between the split release with Unrequited and these last 2 records, it's been a clip, like a very fast clip of new albums for you, new releases.
Yeah, I think at this point so far I've been releasing things quite regularly, but I've never been really. I probably should be, but I've never been too disturbed by the thought of not releasing things like on a really regular schedule, because in the end I will never. I say that now, and future me, you better listen to this. I've never released something just to release it, to get it out, so that to not let people waiting. I'd rather have take the time it needs to be something that I'm really proud of and that's worthy, because I don't see the point in quantity here. It's all about the quality, emotionally speaking, and taking your time is never wrong when it comes to art, I think. So it just happened to be like that, that I've like this year I'm releasing obviously this EP, which is 2 years since Nova came out, and I'm guessing that my next record might be in a few years as well, or next year. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see. Like, I'm working on it at the moment. And the same with when I did the split with Unrequited, it was also like technically there was 4 years between uh Adam's Line coming down, my third album, and Nova, but it just kind of happened to fall like so. Every other year there's something happening, every 2 years. So yeah, I guess it's just also trying to keep the momentum going, because inspiration, I found through the years, inspiration is fleeting. Of course, it's a fleeting thing, but if you kind of stay in this creative sphere as much as you can, sometimes you don't have the headspace. And for me, I have the hard time kind of doing both that and intensive touring at the same time, because it's two wildly different parts of my personality or my brain. But if you stay in that kind of creative sphere more or less all the time, it's easier to write as well, because it's kind of like a routine, like anything else, like a muscle memory. If you stop doing it for years, of course coming back is going to probably take a bit more. So just thinking of it, like trying to do as much as I can while the source is still flowing, more or less. It doesn't flow all the time, but more or less in a kind of fluid motion. So yeah.
Right on. And in terms of lyrics, obviously you had this wonderful source material to at least start with here for most of these tracks, but do you just pen lyrics whenever they come to you all the time, or specifically do you pair them to music you've written first?
I definitely have like a document on my phone where I'm writing down stuff like quite a lot actually. It's just like it can be anything, like just even like watching a movie and there's like a line that triggers something, or like that kind of. It can be any kind of situation basically. It can be a word that I find interesting that I would like to use, or it can be just like one sentence that starts a whole thing. So I have this document on my phone that I'm writing on basically all the time. But of course, around when I started actually having an album of some sort or a release of some sort, I start like trying to see what I can pair, like what lyrics actually reflect the emotions that went into creating this. Usually if it's written around the same time, because what I'm doing is kind of more or less an audio diary, so to speak, they will reflect upon the same kind of subjects, like one just with music without language and one just written. So and sometimes I will write specifically for a song as well. I generally find that there aren't like a lot of really fixed rules when creating music, because it seems to take on a little bit different shape every time it's happening. The process have some similarities, but I can't say that it always happens like this for me. Like sometimes I have lyrics first and then comes the song. Sometimes I will have like just a line and it'll take me forever to write lyrics that I feel actually express what I want to say with music. So yeah, but I am writing all the time because I've always been very connected to the written word, and I liked poetry a lot since I was a teenager, basically. So I do write quite a bit, and then have to kind of like narrow it down and just pick out the stuff that actually reflects the emotions I'm expressing with the music.
So hard to self-edit, especially I feel like as we get older, it's harder to either you're too critical or not critical enough.
Exactly.
I think it
That's
depends
it.
on your level of success and other factors, but so difficult. I want to give a quick shout out to Season of Mist, right? One of our favorite labels. We work with them a lot, and what I love about them is they will have an artist like you, and they have High Lung, but they also have all these extreme bands that have been their calling
Yeah.
card for years. So they've done a really nice job, I think, in the promotion and the whole, just the whole presentation of you as an artist. They've done a really great job with you. We did a contest with them for your tour a few years ago with Amorphous, and which broke my heart because somebody got sick and I didn't get to go to the show that was close by to me. The Berkeley
Oh,
show got canceled.
oh yes, yes.
We were gonna do an interview in person at the show,
That's
and I was
right.
we gave away all these tickets, which was wonderful and great for us and great for our fans and your fans and Amorphous, who we're humongous fans of. And then of
Yeah.
course that show got canceled.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was highly
So
unfortunate.
it was unfortunate. I hope you ended up having a nice time in the city, at least a night off before you. I think the last show was L.A. on that tour, and
Oh,
then
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
went
hopefully.
to the Redwoods, I think.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I'm glad
So,
you did. Yeah. The Northern California's got, when it's not on fire, we have a lot
yeah,
of natural, a lot of beautiful things. And Berkeley's a cool little city, and I'm downtown in San Francisco, so it's really
yeah.
nice here. I hope that means you're going to bring this out on tour. I imagine you would probably like to perform this less in pieces, even though I think in Norway these songs are probably very well known. But I would love to hear this performed as a whole piece. I don't know if that's something you thought about or if it's even possible.
It is absolutely something I've thought about. And I mean, I this is also a little bit of an experiment from my side, because I'm lucky enough to say that I have a fan base, somewhat of a fan base now. And they're used to like my music in a certain way, and this is not that. So I've been a bit at the same time that I was very clear about what I wanted to do with this EP and that I wanted to also promote it afterwards alone on stage, most likely alone, at least in the beginning. um, I have no idea how that will be received live. I had no idea how it would be received when I released the first track either, which, I mean, knock on wood, I've been very, really, really grateful and very humbled by the reaction of people and how warm and how like they just embrace this sound. They're like, yeah, totally you, even though it doesn't sound exactly like what you've done before, but it's still very you, which I agree. I think there's still a very like a Sylvaine thing there. I don't know if it will be like the first test will be this support tour that I'm doing in October with the Faroese very beautiful artist called Ivor. We're going to do this tour together throughout Europe. And I'm curious to see actually how people will react to this live because I've only done a few other shows where I've been alone on stage, and that has been very, very good. And the reaction has been very strong from people. So I will play some of the songs from this EP on that tour because I can't play like endless amount of time because I'm only the support. And then after that, there's one thing in the plans that might be similar to that idea there. And then in 2025, I don't really know. It would be very cool actually to bring it out as like a full piece instead of like you said, like because I feel like it's not the same kind of idea as a regular album where you maybe have like some hits or stuff like that. It's not that kind of beast at all. So definitely would love to perform it as a whole because I think it has an interesting evolution from one piece to another, and between the traditional tracks and my own tracks that I wrote that are inspired by those, it's a interesting journey that goes from pretty lush and pretty like atmospheric to really naked. And there's like the last track, Er Framand, the title track, you don't get more naked than that actually. Just a person standing in front of you singing. And yeah, would definitely love to bring it out as a full piece. So maybe in the future, who knows? The first tour with this alone on stage will be I will definitely be playing stuff from this record, but also a few of my other like older songs, but just like in a new version. I'm kind of rewriting them and rearranging them. So that I'm going to try to make kind of a cohesive set with the stuff that I have from this EP. So that's a bit of a challenge, but it's also kind of a cool experience to try to make things like melt into each other and take the listeners on a journey that makes sense and that can also make them feel like in the end.
That's really cool, and I think that kind of calls back to when we first became aware of you. Probably the first shows we ever saw with you were just you and you alone. So back to the back to the beginning, back to the basics.
Exactly.
Really cool. Look forward to seeing you on tour. Love to hear this music on tour and all your other material. And Ivor is wonderful. We've covered them wonderful voice, phenomenal material, and a nice match between the two artists. I think that's going to be really cool for fans who get to see it. I love to end these interviews with a wild card question. I pick one out very especially for each artist that I chat with,
Okay.
and so I have a fun one for you. I think it's fun. I hope it's fun, and that is, you are having a dinner party, and you can invite three people from across time and space, living or dead. Who are your dinner guests, and what are you serving them?
Oh, oh my God, you're gonna make me think about like so many things. Well, first and foremost, no doubt, like the first thing that even as you started, like before you were finished, the first mind name that popped into my mind was Peter Steele, of course, because I mean, typo negative. It's like just like the best band ever. So definitely he's invited for sure because I would love to talk music with this guy. I mean, I'm sure actually I've talked a bit to Johnny at some point, the drummer and everything. So I mean, like they're all super nice human beings, and that would be interesting to talk to them all. So they could be all be invited. But if I just have one, of course, I would talk to Peter. May he rest in peace. And who else? Oh my goodness. Now I do know this is these moments when I feel like it reveals that you're not really, really not as poetic or philosophical as you would like to be, because now I should say some kind of like, philosopher or something grand. And, at the same time, I would just want to say something like one of my best friends or something like that. So but definitely Peter Steele. I would love to talk to Philip Glass as well. He's alive and he has been a massive inspirational source to me. And maybe in the kind of style of this interview, and like inspired by the EP, maybe I would like to revive John Bauer, the Swedish illustrator and painter that illustrated fairy tales. And I have no idea about his personality or anything like that. I just know that his art has spoken to me a lot and obviously inspired the cover artwork for the EP that I just made. And basically the whole artwork, the whole visual side of this EP release is inspired by his work. And he died very young. Like he died in an accident. Was it a boat accident or something? He died in his 30s or something. So he was very young when he died. So it'd be interesting to speak to Philip Glass and to Peter Steele and John Bauer. That's a very weird collection of people. And what would I be serving them? Well, I mean, I guess it would have to be something involving pasta or noodles, because that's everyone that knows me knows that I absolutely love this kind of food. So let's say that I would serve them a lovely hearty bowl of homemade ramen noodles that I would make from scratch, not from a bag. So something like that. I don't know. Something like that.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. It's a dinner party I would like to be a fly on the wall for. And
Yeah.
we are big fans of Typo Negative here. We love Peter, and we're friendly with Johnny and Kenny, of course. So yeah, that's a great answer. Don't sell yourself short. And Philip Glass is probably very interesting in person.
Oh,
He surely was very interesting in live when I saw him. So good times. Sylvain, Katherine, thank you so much for everything. This record's amazing, and I just wish you the most success possible and the best of luck with everything. We'll see you on the road, I hope, in 2024 and 2025.
really hope so. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and definitely hope to be back in North America very soon. So
All right.
until then, take care.
Take care. See ya.